AI is a tricky beast. And so my biggest piece of advice is adopt it now, but take one step in. Don't overwhelm yourself with going 1 to 1,000, but just getting used to how the tools work and then just play with it. You have to get comfortable using these tools, and you have to get comfortable with what you can leverage with these tools in order to build and grow your firm.
Welcome to Deduct This, powered by ProConnect Tax. This is where tax professionals come together to share ideas, experiences, and fresh perspectives to help you grow your practice and your future. We're glad you're here. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deduct This podcast with Carrie and Lexi. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Lexi. We are so excited today. We are digging into the hottest topic right now, AI, and specifically about the benefits of AI and how they relate to tax and accounting professionals. And honestly, a little bit of where there's caution.
Yes, for sure. So I'm so excited. Today we have Steven Gabrielsen joining us today. He's a tax and accounting professional. He's a CPA, a firm owner, and he's going to dive into how we can transform client relationships using AI. Steven, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you, Steven. We know that you have built a successful tax practice, and you are known for integrating some of the best technology and some of the first adopters of AI when it's been rolling out the last few years. We want to hear about your journey. We want to hear about how AI has started to play such a big role in shaping your firm and the work at your firm.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like Lexi and Carrie said, my name is Steven Gabrielsen. I have my own firm called Creative Advising. We've been around for about 8 or 9 years. So we've kind of been lucky enough to, at the front end of our business, we had a lot of great tools like QuickBooks Online coming out, like ProConnect Tax Online coming out. And we were able to kind of experience that shift from being able to utilize those tools and then rolling AI into a lot of what we've been doing over the last 4 or 5 years as it's been rolling out and changing kind of the landscape of how accountants work and what they do. It's been a lot of fun, honestly, a lot of learning curves as we've tried to adopt new technologies and digest everything that's been thrown at us over the last few years. It's been great jumping in and utilizing those tools and making the client experience better over time. And I'm looking forward to diving into those specific tools and going through what we have done and how we've kind of reshaped our firm over the last few years to make it better and make the client experience better for the most part. So
I love it. So I know I'm we talk about this a lot. I'm obsessed with AI. I want to do everything with AI. But I know a lot of people are really hesitant as how to use it and how to integrate that in their firm. So can you tell us, like, what are some of the tools that you've tried, and maybe some worked and maybe some didn't, but like, what are the ones that I'd love to hear both sides of that. If there's some that you were like, we thought this was going to be amazing, but it wasn't, or it just didn't work in our firm or things like that. And then the other ones that you found, wow, this truly delivered value.
Yeah, great question. So AI is a tricky beast. I think AI is thrown around a lot nowadays as being the new shiny object in the room. It excites a lot of people. The biggest tools that we have used, and as we've been going through our building our practice, BotKeeper has been a big one that we have used and seen a lot of success with. We're able to plug it directly into the back end of QuickBooks and utilize that service. Whether or not BotKeeper is truly a fully automated AI system or whether there's a lot of human interaction in that tool, I honestly don't know. And that's kind of the tricky aspect when it comes to AI is a lot of these companies throw out AI as being this big, great thing that is going to automate and be able to do things instantaneously and stuff like that, where we don't really truly know how much human interaction is still being done on the back end. Mm-hmm. And so it still is kind of tricky to analyze a lot of the tools that are being thrown at us. But where we've seen a lot of improvements as far as my firm goes is on the workflow side. We're able to kind of automate a lot of the workflows that we've been able to use, that have historically taken a long time. As far as like data entry, bookkeeping stuff, we've been able to streamline that, whereas one bookkeeper could typically manage anywhere from 15 to 20 set of books. With the current tools that we've been seeing, they're able to now manage 75 to 90 set or even 100 set of books at one time. So from a capacity standpoint, it's really allowed us to open up our capacity by leveraging BotKeeper and Intuit. Intuit's even rolling a lot of AI tools into QuickBooks Online and stuff like that makes the bookkeeping process much more simple. There's also a lot of tools like I know UltraTax is doing a lot with SurePrep and stuff like that in order to roll in AI tools to make the tax preparation process a lot more efficient and a lot easier to, or a lot more automated. And I know Lacert has also been utilizing a lot of AI tools as far as throwing up red flags for things that might be sparking audits or things that might be more risky on the tax return side, as well as automation tools for inputs when it comes to W-2 inputs, 1099 inputs, 1098 inputs, those types of things. So utilizing those tools for softwares that we've already been using and watching these larger companies roll in AI to their service offerings has been great. And then sitting down with our customer service reps within those individual companies has been huge, because then they are able to teach us the new tools that they're rolling out within the different softwares. And we've been able to really sit down and play with those new tools and allow us to be more efficient in our firms. So we've seen it significantly across our workflows. We use TaxDome. TaxDome has been significant in going through and using cool tools to help us automate our workflow, as well as Zapier. Zapier's also been integrating a lot of AI into their systems. So it's a lot more easy to build Zaps and connect different tools that we've been using, from our scheduling links to our CRM system, and then even from our CRM system into our TaxDome system. So there's a lot that we've been able to do from an automation standpoint with those types of workflows and the data entry aspect of our company.
That's great. I want to dig in a little bit of what you said about like predictive, like planning for your clients, things like that. And I know you said part of your tax prep software is Lacert. And did you mention that you also have dabbled in ProConnect Online as well? ProConnect.
We have. So we played with ProConnect Online when we initially first started our business back in 2018. So I think ProConnect was in its first year rollout at that point. So we played with it for a little bit. We actually switched over to UltraTax. Used UltraTax for a few years, had some rough experiences there, and switched back to Lacert, mostly because of the depreciation aspect. I didn't feel like ProConnect was to the point where I wanted to fully trust on the asset schedules when it came to depreciation. We do a lot of real estate heavy clients from the tax strategy standpoint, and so those components are really important to us. And so Lacert was more of a better fit. But even now, as we've been going through and using Lacert more, playing with those tools that have come out within Lacert over the last year or two, and even that they're still rolling out even this year, has been very beneficial for us.
That's awesome. Have you dabbled in the Intuit Tax Advisor that rolled out with Lacert this year for the predictive planning and stuff?
I have not yet. I'm looking forward to getting into that, but I have not yet dabbled into that. So,
yeah, that was a big release.
I'm curious. So you named a lot of stuff, right? You named BotKeeper, Zapier, et cetera. So they're all totally different, right? And they do different things. So I'm curious, is it one person in your firm that's saying, hey, I found this, and you guys are playing? Do you guys all jump in? How do you find these different things and figure out what's going to work for you? Because they take a minute. Like, I think everyone thinks you just like press a button and everything is just automated all of a sudden, right? Because there's a lot of misnomers about AI and what you can do with it. And like you said, it's all about, right? Your workflow it doesn't replace anybody, right? It can help you maybe move things faster, but sometimes you have to kind of slow down to move fast. I love that saying. And I found that when I try the new stuff, I'm like, ooh, what is this? You know, there's new interfaces and things like that. So how are you guys trying to figure out what this stuff is and how you integrate it?
That's a great question. And I see this being a really big hang up for most CPA firms due to how a lot of CPA firms are set up. A lot of CPA firms are set up where the main CPA or the owner or the main partner is still stuck in the day-to-day weeds of the business. They're still cranking out client returns. They're still handling most of the client communication. How we've been able to set up our firm to allow us to explore these different tools is I've been able to build a great team around me. We have a president of creative advising who runs the entire tax side of the firm. So any tax return that goes out the door goes through him. He's also a partner in the business. And then we have a COO within creative advising who handles all the administrative side. So she's also a partner in the business, and she handles all the administrative stuff, majority of client communications, those types of things. And so it has allowed me to work on the business rather than working in the business. And it's allowed me to jump in and do a lot of research on those different types of tools that are out there. And because we have our COO and the president who are doing a lot of the work down into the weeds of things, they get emails with different types of tech that are coming out, and they hear from other professionals in the industry that they're using X, Y, and Z to build their firms. And then they are able to bring that to me, and we're able to sit down and look at those tools more deeply. We've also had a great opportunity to join other networking groups with, I guess you could call them almost coaching platforms, where it's groups of CPA firms that are building their firms. And we're currently in a group right now called, I believe it's called Renew. Don't quote me on that. But it's basically allowed us to sit down with like up to 80 other firm owners and get a good idea as far as what tools they're using, how are they integrating AI into their firms and what they're doing. So we've been able to kind of take pieces from what they're doing, what we're doing,
awesome.
and then integrate it into our service offerings and into our business.
That's amazing. It just shows the power of that peer-to-peer. Like you guys are connecting, you're learning from each other, which is part of like what this is all about right here, right? Peers want to hear, like pros want to hear from pros, like firm owners.
Absolutely.
I love it.
It's one thing I was thinking about is, it's interesting because what you just said was one of the reasons we started this exact podcast. So we have a thing called the Tax Advisor Council at Intuit. And we had this roundtable discussion. There's 12 of them. And this is exactly what you're just talking about with your Renew group, is they were all talking about the different AI that they were using. And just to watch the people's faces light up, I mean, they were like, what was happening again? And everyone's writing down the different pieces and parts. Yeah. And I even said to my team, I was like, I want to figure out ways to bring that exact excitement to the masses. And so I would love to figure out too, like, how do we get that idea of what you just said? There's, all these different firm owners talking about what is working for them. We need to figure out better ways for all of you guys to communicate with each other and share those best practices, because you 100%. Learn from each other, and you can be like, hey, someone's like, oh, that didn't work for me. And you're like, oh, here's how I got it. You're like, I didn't think so either, but I did this. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Like there's that beauty in that we've lost in not being all together all the time anymore. And so I love that you had that experience, because that's literally one of the like precipices for doing this exact podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many fish in the sea that we can all be fed and be
exactly.
I look at the CPA industry and the accounting and tax industry as something where there are so many business owners, so many individuals out there that aren't using CPAs even still, right? Yeah. Even where we're at now, most firm owners feel overwhelmed. They feel like they have so much work, they don't even know how to complete it. And if that's the case, and there's still so many people that aren't even using CPAs or tax firms, there's just so much work to go around. And so working together to identify opportunities and how we can build our firms better and take that knowledge that we have and the skills that we have and then better deliver that to our clients just helps the industry overall. I also look at it as the tax and accounting industry is kind of a growing industry. Or an aging industry. Yeah. There's a lot of older CPAs and tax firm owners out there, and not a whole lot of young blood in the game. And so I do think the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way. There kind of seems to be this gap between the ages of 40 to 60 where there's not a whole lot, but we're starting to see a lot of people in their 20s and 30s getting into the tax game again and the accounting game again, which is exciting because with the tools like social media,
exactly,
podcasts and things like this, it's really allowed us to spread the word as far as being able to utilize these tools. And going back to the group that we're involved in Renew, we were just at a conference down in Austin, and I would say the average age of the people in that room were probably mid-30s, maybe.
Wow.
And so there are a lot of young people coming back into the industry, which is exciting for me. Because it's going to allow us to collaborate and to leverage each other's knowledge to make the industry much more exciting, much cooler, produce much better products for our clients.
Are you okay? I want to talk about that for a second, because you're right. The industry was dying, and now there's like a revival. Part of that is social media. Part of that is also AI tools, because one of the things that was not appealing about this profession that these tools now make it appealing is that the new generation doesn't want to work 80 plus hours a week. They want to have the balance, the life. Talk a bit about like those tools are allowing for the profession to be able to be reasonable hours and yet even more work, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, we went from a standard bookkeeper being able to handle 10 to 20 sets of books to now they can probably handle anywhere from 80 to 100 sets of books.
Yeah.
Just that expansion in capacity has really allowed us to really streamline the workload that we have. Where we can still run into issues is because of that increase in capacity and the efficiency that we have seen, our margins have been able to grow pretty significantly, right? So still looking back and caring about our employees and making sure that they're not working 80-hour weeks, which is what's been standard pretty much for the life of accounting firms, and allowing them to stay within the 35, 45-hour range and have good work-life balances, which is very important to the younger generation, is still key, right? So even though we're able to expand our capacity and be much more efficient in what we're doing, we still need to keep that in the front of our mind. And instead of taking a 60% profit margin, maybe we only take a 40% profit margin. And along with that, pricing is huge, making sure that we're pricing at a point with that what we're worth, right? To allow us to give our staff a better work-life balance while still being able to maintain healthy profit margins and being able to test out these types of tools, because it takes money to test out these tools, right? And there's so many tools out there that it's really hard to digest what you want to bring in. We've tested a lot of tools. We've paid money for tools that we have stopped using. But AI has really allowed us to really expand on what we're able to offer, both on the workflow side, the data entry side, as well as the marketing side. That's something I forgot to mention earlier, is we use AI tools across all of our marketing efforts, across social media, email campaigns, monthly newsletters, weekly newsletters, and client communication. So all of that has really been able to allow us to expand our capacity, make the client experience better from a communication standpoint. And so, yeah, it's been fun.
I love that. I mean, it's amazing how we use the tools every day. I find that we can move faster, right? But there is still a balance of, like, you still have to understand what it is that you're doing. You need to make sure that the output makes sense, right? I keep hearing, pitfalls of some people who did experience where they did something and they just sent it out. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, it's a tool. It's not a replacement, right? And so 100%. What are some of the pitfalls that you've seen or that you've experienced? You just mentioned that you guys have brought some tools on and then you stopped using them. You don't have to name the tools. We don't want to, get in trouble here, but or you can, I guess. But what are some of the things that you found that, like, didn't work for you? Because again, we talk about all the beautiful positives, right? But there are some negatives to some of these things, right?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the AI that we've been seeing and using still requires a lot of human input, right? A lot of them are LLMs or language learning models where you have to put in a prompt and it generates something that you read through, and then you take that and then you apply it to an action, right? So where a lot of the AI tools have been trying to develop into is more of what's called an agent model, right? Where you prompt it and it goes from step 1 all the way through step 10 or all the way through A to Z, right? And it completes the task. Those tools that we've used, we've tested out a few of them, are still pretty clunky. There doesn't really seem to be anything that has been able to actually take a beginning prompt and actually generate something that's super concrete and super good. It also depends on what you're applying it to, right? Preparing for this podcast, I was going through a bunch of different articles and reading a bunch of different things. And there was an article that was written and was like, hey, watch this guy prepare a tax return using AI. Right. And it was a guy who went in and he prompted something. The prompt was a mile long with all the different information for the client and all the stuff. And he was like, check this out. And you hit enter and it came up with what should the standard deduction be for this couple. Right. It's like, well, the standard deduction is $24,000. That's kind of common knowledge. He's like, well, then watch this. Yeah. What would their estimated tax liability be? And it came out and spit out their estimated tax liability, which is cool. Like, that's a great tool that we can use from a planning perspective. Right. When sitting down and working with a client, but that in no way, shape, or form was generating an actual tax return with the use of AI, right? Right. So I do believe that AI is still a long ways away from being able to actually complete those types of things in an accurate way. We've also seen it where a lot of professionals have gotten into a lot of trouble using and trusting these tools. There have been lawyers that have is barred
Yes.
from these tools and not actually researching what they are submitting to the courts, and run into a lot of trouble. AI, the tricky part about the LLMs is a lot of times when you prompt it with a question or you prompt it with a task, it will make up certain facts in order to complete that task. And so it does require a lot of due diligence on our side to make sure that whatever it's generating is legitimate. We use AI to where we can plug it into our email, to our emails and generate client responses to emails. And it's really good from a standpoint of if we get a client question that's more of a complex question, we can generate an email prompt that will spit out a really good email. But then you still have to go in and fact check what that AI is generating, right? You don't want to just hit copy and paste and then paste it to the client, because it's also not only it might not be fully accurate, but there's also not a whole lot of human touch. It's very easy.
Exactly.
Something is just AI generated or not. So you want to make sure that you go in and you put your own language in there. You make sure that you're going in and you're putting your own touch to it so the client knows it's you still, right? That is an issue that we've seen kind of across the board. So when it comes to more like technical aspects of the integration within AI within the firm, it's very important to go through and make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's with the information that's being spit out. Now, on the flip side, from a marketing perspective, we've been able to leverage AI pretty significantly. On my social media platform, I'm the Snapback CPA on social media, on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all those things. We've been able to leverage AI for actual video generation. So you'll see videos of me sitting in a chair talking, and I'm going through different tax topics. All of that's AI generated, and we're able to post 4 or 5 videos a day and really spread about these different tax strategies that are out there. From a marketing perspective, it's less important for me to go in and make sure every single bit of information in there is 100% accurate. It does a really good job of being very general and being accurate on the general aspect. But when it comes to the actual application of those strategies, I don't have a whole lot of trust in going in and putting it into a tax return and actually making sure that it actually comes out correctly on an actual tax return, where it's much more complex. So it's just making sure that you're integrating it into your systems in a way where you do have you're ticking and tying it to what's actually accurate and making sure it's correct on the actual generated forms and stuff like that.
That's fantastic. That's so awesome. You talked about, first of all, just to mention the human side of things. It's critical. It's still so important. I love that you guys, that genuine part of the business you do is still coming through. And it just shows the power of using tech as well with the human touch and how powerful those two are together. Sure. So love that. A little bit. So I want to talk about the riskier side of AI, because a lot of people, right, just like you spoke about, there is a lot of different maturity in this profession and who's comfortable with adopting a little bit more technology than not. And so what is your advice when you are to your peers about wanting to take on, let's say it's their first time using an AI tool?
Yeah.
Which one did you use first? And how did you begin to tap into this before scaling to where you guys have scaled it to the point you're at?
Yeah, great question. And like I've said many times, there are a billion different AI tools out there.
There are.
Constantly, every single week, a new one's coming out. It's the latest and greatest, and it's going to save us countless hours of time and efficiencies and blah, blah, blah. My piece of advice to someone who's just getting into it is pick one of the main ones. Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, Copilot, one of those, and then get to know it really, really well. That's my piece of advice. I started with ChatGPT. It was the first one on the market, and that's kind of what started the AI snowball. So that's where I started. I was way back in the day where we had to go in and use Python and do all this stuff to like actually make it work. It's much easier to leverage the tool now with apps on the phone, apps on the computer. They also have a browser that you can log into and use. But I would, in my opinion, I would pick one and get really good at using it. And then I would also encourage people to leverage the tools that they're already using. Because in today's day and age, it's almost impossible to run an efficient firm without leveraging tools like QuickBooks Online, like Listserv, like ProConnect Tax, like TaxDomes or HubSpot, or any of those types of things for the different tools that we use within our firms. Leverage those companies that you're already working with jump on calls with your customer service reps and learn about the AI tools that they're using and how you can automate the systems that you're already using without pulling in all these new and cool, shiny tools and uprooting the systems that you've already been using. That would be my biggest piece of advice. And then, like I said, making sure you're going back and ticking and tying what's happening before you fully trust it to run through the system without a whole lot of human interaction. Make sure it's working well. And make sure that it's adding value and not taking more work from your staff.
What's a practical example really quick for our listener? Like give just one simple next step that they could do this afternoon.
So because I started with ChatGPT, that's something that I've leveraged really heavily. ChatGPT 5.0 actually just came out a couple of weeks ago, which is a really cool tool. You're able to take it and they have what's called connectors within ChatGPT, where you can take it, you can connect it to different systems that you can use. You can connect it to Dropbox, Gmail, your Google Calendar. You can connect it to all sorts of stuff. I was actually playing with it this morning. I was actually able to start what's called a project. You can start projects within ChatGPT where you can basically make, because those who haven't used LLMs before, it's very chat heavy, right? You prompt a question, it answers the question. You can get deeper into the conversation with the AI model. With a project, you can stay within the context of whatever project you've built out. So what I did this morning is I actually took our last 3 years of P&Ls and balance sheets and I uploaded it to this project. I was able to go in and basically have a conversation with it about the financial health of our business. Where have our weak points been as far as cash flow, as far as what expenses have spiked and come down, and it's able to go in and actually analyze it much quicker than I am going through monthly financial statements. And so it's been very beneficial for me from that perspective, helping me build the firm. Along with that, I've been able to take our CRM, connect it into ChatGPT, and go through our client analytics. Who are we able to target most effectively? What demographic are we able to close more effectively? What is the average age group of our clientele? What's the average net worth of our clientele? And then we can take that information and we can target that client to that prospective client much more efficiently, much more effectively. And so there's still a lot of human input that goes into it, but that's a more concrete example of tools that I've been using. And then, like I said earlier in the call, Zapier's been a big one where we can go in and create things much more quickly, much more efficiently. They have a new tool where you can basically be like, I need to connect my Calendly to my Pipedrive account. And then boom, it'll create a Zap to connect the two. And it makes it much more efficient, but you still have to test it, right? You have to go through multiple layers of testing to make sure that it works efficiently. But those are a handful that we've used. And then again, Zapier from connecting our Pipedrive to our TaxStone. Create a Zap between Pipedrive and TaxStone based on these triggering situations that it then pulls the client into our TaxStone and sets them up in the way that we typically have set the client up. So that's how we've basically been leveraging it over the last few years.
I love this. This gets me so excited. I can't even tell you. I just love I love to play with it. I do the same thing, and I joke that I'm a TikTok accountant. Is right, and so I'm probably watching your TikToks, and the amount of times that I wanted to call my accountant and ask him questions about taxes, or my husband, I'm like, hey, I think we can do this thing. He's like, stop watching TikTok for tax advice. But I love it. But I love that you're trying these things and finding efficiencies. And I always say to people, because I keep talking to people about this and they keep telling me where they're scared. And I'm like, try something small, right? Yeah. Minutes equal hours of savings, right? Again, if you're like, I have to reply to these 10 clients, you can quickly write up an email. It's quicker to edit an email than it is to create an email, 100%. Right? And so instead of the 10 minutes or 15 minutes that you were going to take to write up this entire thing, to think about it, and then edit, et cetera, if you could have it quickly written up and you edit it in 2 minutes, you just saved yourself 13 minutes. If you do that throughout the day, you found literally hours of extra time. And I think people think that they have to, like, again, you guys are very far advanced where, you're connecting all your backend. But I think people feel like they have to go from 0 to 1,000. And I'm like, nope, you can find little efficiencies. And when you find those 13 minutes every single time throughout the day, then now you have 3 hours. You could take that 3 hours and you could jump on TikTok like I do. And you could try, what is Zapier? How does that work? We use Gmail for our firm. Could I connect it and have it look through and get rid of all the spam? And then I'm only seeing client emails. Like little things like that, I think can get people excited about testing the waters a little bit, but there's not security issues. People aren't worried about all their personal information getting out there because there's a lot of that stuff too, right? Yeah. So I just went on a tangent there. Sorry, I just get very excited. So, I love to kind of think about like what's next. So much has changed in the last 6 months. I mean, the things that we've seen now in AI is drastically different from 6 months, which is crazy that it's moving that fast. So if you sort of like wanted to, have your magic wand or sort of look into the future, what would you want AI to do for you and your firm?
Yeah, great question.
It could be anything.
Yeah, great question. So I'm a strong believer in the fact that I do believe AI will be fully completing tax returns, fully completing bank reconciliations, fully be completing bookkeeping tasks. Now, what that timeline looks like, I don't know. Yeah. 2 years ago when it first came out, I was like, 6 months. 6 months before we were all done.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that anymore.
Yeah.
I do believe we are probably within 5 to 10 years of something like that happening. But where I'm really excited about it is I do believe it'll force accountants and force CPAs to elevate what they're doing. There's been a massive shift in the last 10 years in the tax industry to shifting to more of a tax advisory role. Mm-hmm. We're able to add much more sound advice to our clients and help them throughout the year rather than just completing a tax return. Right? Everything in the tax preparation, bookkeeping world has been commoditized. It's a race to the bottom, basically. Who can be cheapest? Who can be fastest? And stuff like that. And that's the industry that we need to get away from. And we need to be shifting our focus to more of this tax advisory role where we're actually adding as much value to our clients as possible. And by leveraging these tools, we're able to do that much more efficiently. I don't believe CPAs and tax accountants and EAs will be out of a job in the next 5 to 10 years just because that data entry work is going to be replaced. I don't believe that at all. What I do believe is it will elevate us to be able to provide much more value to our clients. And that's what really excites me. Being able to leverage tools, like another tool that we use is a tool called Tax GPT. We've just started using that within the last 3 or 4 months. Tax GPT is an awesome tool where we're able to upload tax returns to it. We're also able to upload the working documents to it. And it gives us things that we may have missed. It gives us strategy options that we can leverage with those clients. It gives us areas where we might be more risky, where some red flags might be, what we might want to change, things like that. So that's been a tool that we've been able to leverage not only for myself, but we've been able to push that down to the prepare level. So before that return even goes into the preparation portion, the review portion of the tax return preparation phase, we're able to have our preparers upload that to Tax GPT, maybe get some ideas of things that they may have missed, questions that they might need to go back and ask the client. And it really allows us to add that layer of value to the client perspective at the preparation phase instead of the review and final review phase. So we're really able to kind of systemize that aspect as well by leveraging a lot of these tools. So I'm really excited for that. And I'm also really excited about the overall efficiency that it's going to add to firms across the world. There are obviously risks associated with any new tools like this. There's always data risks. There's always, I did some research. When was this? I believe it was the beginning of this year. I did some research about data theft and what they've seen from a data theft perspective. And between Q1 of 2024 and Q1 of 2025, they saw over 1,000% increase in data theft.
Wow.
Information being stolen. And a lot of that is due to people leveraging these tools for nefarious reasons, right? Yeah. And so from that perspective, I have a firm belief that our personal information is probably everywhere at this point, right? Everyone needs to make sure that they're taking their own precautions when it comes to that. Get LifeLock or get some sort of data protection tool that you can make sure you leverage. Use the identity theft pins within the IRS so that you get an actual pin that has to be filed with your tax return electronically in order to make sure that you're avoiding those issues. We've seen a pretty good increase in data theft from tax returns being submitted fraudulently on behalf of clients. So that is obviously a downside of it. But where I also see something that I'm really excited about is I really hope the IRS also takes advantage of these tools and that they're incorporating these tools into their systems to make their systems better. The most difficult part of any tax accountant's job is dealing with the IRS. That's what makes this job so miserable, to be frank. Is having to deal with.
You need an agent for that.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. It's brutal. The IRS is 15, 20 years behind when it comes to technology.
Oh, yeah.
And they're getting further and further behind as it's going. So I'm really hoping that they take advantage of these tools and really step up their game from the technology standpoint. That'll make everyone's life a whole lot easier. So that's kind of what I'm really excited about coming down the pipeline. And it's going to be really cool to see how it develops and how it affects firms going forward. And even those tools that I said that I'm really excited about, it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops over the next 5 years. That's what I'm excited about now, but there could be things out there that I didn't even know I should be excited about in the next 4 or 5 years as they're rolling out these new tools. So it's cool to see.
Absolutely. I asked you earlier, like a piece of advice to jump into these tools, because there's a lot of people still not in the profession, not even tapping into them whatsoever.
Yeah.
I want you to put the emphasis on how critical it is that those firms will be left behind. It is moving so dramatically. So back to the one piece of advice. If you had one piece of advice today, what would it be for a firm that's just still like, I don't believe in it. I'm not ready for it. We're not going to do it. What would you say?
I mean, you have to integrate it at this point. You've seen a huge shift in private equity firms buying up a lot of accounting firms I believe in this exact reason. They're able to go in and buy these old firms, apply these tools and make it much more efficient and grow those firms by using those tools. And so my biggest piece of advice for someone in that situation is adopt it now, but take one step in, right? Don't overwhelm yourself with going, like Carrie said, 1 to 1,000, right? Just take one step at a time. Get involved in one tool. If you use Microsoft Office, Copilot is probably a great option for you. Copilot's integrated very significantly within the Microsoft Office network. If you just want a general model that's pretty easy to use, I would jump into ChatGPT and jump in and use that and leverage that tool. If you're heavy on social media and Twitter is your thing or X is your thing, jump in and use Grok. Grok's cool. But just getting used to how the tools work and stuff like that, and then just play with it. You have to get comfortable using these tools, and you have to get comfortable with understanding how they can affect your firm and what you can leverage with these tools in order to build and grow your firm. So my one piece of advice is to start now. Take small bite-sized pieces, set up an open AI account. If you want to use ChatGPT, you have to go to OpenAI, and then you set up your account there, and then just walk through the process of playing with it. Ask it a simple question. Right? Ask it the most popular places to travel in 2025 and see what it gives you, right? And then just play with it and then start asking it business questions. The cool thing about these tools is they learn about you. They learn who you are. They learn what you're doing. They learn about your business. And then you can really start to leverage it to help grow your business and to help systemize the things that you're using. So that would be my piece of advice. Jump in, set up an account, even ask it how to use it. Jump into ChatGPT. When I first started using ChatGPT for my business, I sat down and I asked it, how can I use you to help me grow my business or to help me make my business more efficient? Or what tools should I be using that I might not be using that can make my business more efficient?
Such great advice. So that's so fantastic. Absolutely.
I love it. I feel like we covered so much today.
We did.
I mean, the highs, the lows, the exciting parts. And again, I think at the end of the day, right, it's jump in and try it. So I love what you said. I'm also a massive believer of if you're afraid to use it for your business, use it for your personal life, just like you talked about. Find the vacation, write a thank you letter to somebody. Do something just easy so that it's not so terrifying. That's what I told my parents. I'm like, just get in and ask a question. What are 5 TV shows I should watch? And they're like, you could do that. I'm like, yes, yeah. Just go and play. Because I think the more that you play with it, the more comfortable you feel and the more you're willing to jump in. And so I love that advice. So thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's going to be really helpful for people to just, again, get the idea of the spectrum of where to start. What are the possibilities? What excites you? What excites us? So I get excited by everything here. And so I really enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Same. And yeah, just thank you for having such a clear picture for others that are just starting their journey or that are in it. I bet there's people nodding their head like, yes. And just, it's so important to hear from each other, just like you said. So just thank you for your knowledge sharing today. And we're excited to continue to talk to you again and learn from you. And we can't wait to see what happens maybe in 6 months and where you guys are at. So Best of luck to you today. And thank you guys so much for listening. That's it for the episode of Deduct This today. Until next time.
Thanks for being part of Deduct This, powered by ProConnect Tax. If today's conversation gave you something new to think about, visit accountants.intuit.com for more insights and resources made for professionals like you. We'll be right here, helping you turn expertise into opportunity.